Township Executive, Mrs. Shields, Mrs. Brooks. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing afterwards. Please start like that. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets trembling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's so exciting and inspiring to see so many of you come out this evening. For those that don't know me, my name is Peter Trinami, and I have the great privilege of serving as the superintendent for Rockaway Township Schools. We're going to start off our evening with performances. Mr. Bishop and your choir, we thank you all for being here and helping us kick off the holiday season. So I'll turn it over to you.
Our first selection for this evening will be Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad.
Students, before you exit, I give us one more round of applause. Just we'd love to just thank you. Please know on behalf of our entire board, and I'm sure everyone in the audience and all parties sounded beautiful. If we had our druthers, we'd love to listen to you for the rest of the evening. We very much would. Mr. Bishop, and thank you to you very much so. We're going to take a brief break. We know it's a busy season. If anyone's here for just a child's performance, they need to go. We're going to allow you to exit. And then in about 2 minutes, we're going to start our ceremony. So thank you again. Good evening again. Oh, I was going to formally invite you up, but come on up. No, please. There you go. Thank you. Certainly your prerogative. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, tonight is not like any other board meeting. It's really one of the most important meetings we have annually here in our township. Tonight's about two themes. It's about commitment and it's about dedication. In a few minutes, we're going to honor those with service awards, those who have demonstrated long-standing commitment to our students and to our community through their long years of service to our community. At the same time, we're also going to award tenure pins to those who we're excited to invest in and make commitments and dedications to, so that they also evolve to become the bedrock of the community that we aim to aspire for all of our students. Our mission statement is very clear. Our mission is to provide a supportive culture to ensure the academic and social and emotional success of all of our students. You cannot do that without a bedrock of committed and dedicated professionals in our classrooms, throughout our schools, supporting all our schools on a regular basis over many years. That's what we aspire to, and that's what many of those in the room tonight have achieved over many years. And I would be remiss not to mention that that same quality is also valued very much on our board, where our board members are volunteers. Oftentimes that gets lost in heated debate. But volunteers who dedicate countless amount of hours over the course of one school year in service to us all. And there's one board member this evening in particular who has dedicated those countless numbers of hours over 22 years. And tonight marks her final board meeting. I'd be remiss not to honor our president, Sue Salmi. The first, well deserved. Thank you. Thank you. So on behalf of the administration, I have the humble privilege of thanking you. I regret it's only been about a year and a half. Wish it was much longer, but thank you so much. Your wisdom will stay with me for the rest of my career, to be very candid. I promise. Yes, please, I hope you'll still set my number. Now, I know there are other people who are going to speak tonight, and we have different moments throughout the evening set aside for that, and make sure that gets valued throughout the evening. But I know, knowing Sue as I do, I also know that what inspires her and has inspired her over those 22 years is the opportunity to honor our teachers, our staff members who have demonstrated that commitment over a long period of time and have also now earned the tenure pins to demonstrate that we're going to be investing in them over a long period of time. So we're going to pause now. We're going to start our official ceremony of honoring those for their years of service and awarding tenure pins. And so for that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. DiCarlo, who will be calling the names. And we're going to ask those who are called up, if you would come to me first, and then please come through our progression here, and then return to your family and friends in the audience, okay? Thank you.
staff. So from Stony Brook School with 30 years, Karen Iacovino. Karen's not in attendance this evening. From Stony Brook School with 25 years of service, Sandra Prendergast Blaha. Also with 25 years of service from Copeland, Scott Presidio. From Birchwood with 20 years of service, Kathleen Astorga. And Terry Selesky. With 20 years of service from CMS, we have Jennifer Berga. Gina Garino. Maura Olo. Joan Young. With 20 years of service from DBO, we have Claudia Pesaro Oakland. 20 years of service from Dwyer, Doreen Sheets. Now we'll go to our non-certificated staff with 30 years of service from our transportation department, bus driver Beth Pearson. From the central office, the payroll supervisor, Allison Ferris. With 20 years of service, Lee Janicek. With 20 years of service from DBO, Administrative Assistant Michelle Sawatsky. From KTM, Staff Assistant Denise Cleary. From Copeland, Staff Assistant with 20 years of service, Lori Liana. With 20 years of service from our transportation department, Karen Cosgrove. And Carol Scher. Next, we'll be moving on to our tenure pins. From Birchwood, Caitlin Jarvie. From Copeland, Michael Bernstein. Tara Smith. From Dwyer, Nicole Gillen. From KDM, Alexandra Eccleston. From Stony Brook, Christina Beatrice. From the central office, my secretary, Karen Casano. Also from the central office, Cynthia Katz. Another central office recipient, Kimberly Willard. And the last tenure pins of this evening is custodian at Stony Brook, Meredith Galuza.
So at this point, before we pause, that concludes the ceremony. And so in a moment, I'll invite the board members to go back to behind the dais. We have a couple other public presentations that we wanted to call up, and then I thought we could stop at that point and have some dessert and cookies. Does that seem like a good, okay? All right. So why don't we all sit back down, and then I'll call up the public presentations. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That was a fairly smooth transition. So first, Mayor Puzio, I know you've asked to speak, so we invite you up, please. Thank you.
Sue, don't be shy.
I don't like this.
It's all right. Listen, it's your last time. On behalf of the town, I want to thank Sue for her over 22-year service. We did a proclamation for her, and I'm not going to be too lengthy, but I served on the board of Ed with Sue for many years. There's a couple other board members here. Councilman Jackson, we have Fred West is here, we have Frank Giarratano, Rob Curlin from the council, we have Jack Quinn. Tara's here. I'm sorry. Tara, listen, my bandwidth is short today. Tara's here. All of us served with Sue over the years. I started in 2001. Frank came on after me, and there's been a progression of people that have served with her. She has served the town well. I don't just consider her a board member. I consider her a friend. When I first came on, as many of us do, you have expectations as to what you're going to expect, and it's not what you think it is. And Sue was one of those people who was there for me and for all of us, and as a testament to the people who are served with who are in the audience, to kind of tell us, hey, listen, we can't do that, or this isn't under our control, all those good things. And along the way, there's a lot of spirited discussions, but at the end of the day, we always agreed to disagree on certain items, and we remained friends. And it was very important for us to be here tonight, for myself and for the town to honor her. She's always been, and now my position as mayor, I've had the chance to work with her on the other side. We've always had a collaborative relationship. Has a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge about the school system, about the town. She's definitely going to be missed. And Now I'm going to read a proclamation that the town prepared, that I prepared for her, and I want to wish her well. Whereas service to the community which benefits the common good is necessary and is honorable, and whereas school board members play a crucial role in promoting student learning and achievement by creating a vision, adopting policies and budgets, and improving clear standards and accountability for all involved. And whereas Susan Sally has more than 22 years of outstanding volunteer service to the Rockaway Township Board of Education, as a seven-term member of the Board of Education, providing a passionate voice and advocacy for welfare of all public school children. And whereas Sue Salney devoted countless hours to the leadership of the school district's operations, serving as board president, vice president, chairman, and various committees including policy, curriculum, negotiations, and whereas Sue Salney demonstrates her dedication and commitment through her many years of support of school arts programs, convocations, recognition ceremonies, and fundraising events, while she champions the efforts to sponsor educational programs. And whereas Sue Salney recognized that with the increasing demands on our children and the tremendous responsibility of our teachers and staff to soon remain open-minded and make informed decisions while never losing sight of the financial burden to our residents. Now, therefore, I, Michael Puzio, Mayor of the Township of Rockaway, do hereby congratulate and declare our appreciation to Susan Salney for all her years of extraordinary service. Congratulations to you.
And then we have one other official presentation. The Stony Brook PTA president had requested to come up and speak. Ms. Tepster, are you here? Oh, please. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to come and thank Sue on behalf of Stony Brook PTA. We've had the pleasure of having her serve as our liaison, and she's just been tremendous. We look forward every month to your reports, your feedback, all your efforts, and everything you've done to help us as a school, a PTA, and the township as a whole. You'll truly be missed, and we appreciate everything you've done. I'm still shaking.
And with that, we're now going to take a 10-minute break. Encourage you to enjoy refreshments and mingle, and we'll start up again.
Before you go, before everybody goes, I didn't expect everything, but I expected a thank you, and I couldn't leave without thanking you. So if you'll just bear with me for about 2 more minutes, I have a few thank yous as well. It has been both an honor and a pleasure to serve as Board of Education member these past 22 years. To the community who elected me to represent you, thank you for having the confidence in my abilities and entrusting me to do what is best for our children. While you may not have always agreed with me, you knew that I always listened and considered all aspects and facts before making any decisions. Throughout my journey, our district has experienced many wonderful years, and yes, some challenging ones as well. I am proud of what has been accomplished. The quality, breadth, and delivery of our educational programs, the influence of technology on all aspects of the district, the maintenance of our facilities, although aging, the overall fiscal responsibility, the safety record of our transportation department, and the collaboration with local agencies and organizations, including the mayor, town council, police department, Substance Abuse Alliance, PTAs, and our District Education Foundation, just to name a few. And I didn't know you were going to be here, Mayor and Council. In the words of Helen Keller, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. There have been plenty of bends, so many unexpected. but working together with all groups within the RTEA, the district administration, central office staff, transportation and facility departments, and our community, we have made the turns we needed to make and kept our district on course. My heartfelt thanks to all of you for your collaboration and support. Next, I am deeply humbled by and wholeheartedly thank all of you former board members who have come here tonight. It was my privilege to work with all of you, and no matter what issues confronted us, we always worked through them with respect, dignity, caring, and integrity. We had only one agenda, driven by what was best for our students and fair to our staff and community. Dialogue, discussion, and not condemnation was the standard we all upheld, and I will cherish those memories forever. Finally, to my family who was unable to be here this evening, a world of thanks for putting up with my countless meetings, so many nights out, and an incredible amount of hours at home working on Board of Education matters. Thank you for understanding and respecting how serious I was about my commitment to the board, which sometimes meant making sacrifices, taking away from our family time. I was raised by parents who strongly believed in and were my role models for giving back to the community, no matter how busy life was. 22 years ago, my passion for and career in education led me to serve on the Board of Education, and that same passion is still strong. I will continue to remain interested in our school district and community in some way or another, and I wish future board success in the years to come, for the children of Rockaway Township are depending on you. Thank you.
And now I'll invite you to enjoy our refreshments. Thank you.
If anybody wants to move up closer, it's okay. So, it kind of got empty in here. So. At this point, we'll move into public discussion. During the course of the board meeting, the Rockaway Township Board of Education offers members of the public an opportunity to address issues regarding the operation of the Rockaway Township Public Schools. The board reminds those individuals who take this opportunity to identify themselves by name and address and to limit their comments to items listed on the agenda and/or items directly related to the operation of the school district. We also ask that you sign in at the podium. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged and will not be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in the comments, and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for the comments. May I have a motion, please, to open to the public?
Second.
Let's go with Mrs. Shields and Mrs. Brooks. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to address the board? Sir.
Yeah, mine is Fred West.
Could you please sign in, Fred? Thank you.
What's my line?
This is.
I was hoping people would stay around and hear me.
You're on candid camera, Fred.
We now tape the meetings.
Fred West, 3 Barry Drive, Rockaway Township, New Jersey. As a previous board member, I was proud to serve with Sue for 10 years that I was on the board, during a 22-year tenure, and she was always fair and Our other board members looked up to Sue for her experience, her fairness, and her ability to analyze situations. And she was able to say no. And being board members at times, and superintendents and administrators, you have to be able to say no. No is an answer. And although people might not like you, you have to say no sometimes. It can't be yes all the time. So do what's right, that's in your heart, for the community, for the students, which are that's our ultimate people that work for the students and public. Do what's right for them. And if you have to say no, say no. But have good reasons to back it up. It's always easy to say yes and go along with the crowd. It takes a leader to say no. And Sue was that type of leader, where she stood up and at times unpopular, she would vent her position and be able to say yes and analyze it and do the right thing. So as a former board member and other former board members here tonight, we thank you for your service. We thank you for your dedication, loyalty, and we were proud to serve with you. And I was proud to serve with you. I also like to thank Nancy Cherico, who wasn't here tonight, but I understand she's leaving as well. And she served 6 years and did a lot of work for the board. So when you see Nancy, congratulate her on her dedication to our board, our town, because she deserves it. Sue, again, thank you. It was a privilege to work with you, and may the years ahead be kind. Thank you. Good luck to the club and to everybody here. You got the banner. Go score a touchdown. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to address the board? If not, may I have a motion, please, to close to the public?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Brooks and Mrs. Halborg. Moving on then to communications. Any additional communications since the one that's listed?
No, there's nothing.
Thank you very much. Moving on to approve the minutes. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Shields? Board discussion. If not, roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Halborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Superintendent's report?
Okay, thank you and good evening again, everyone. My report this evening is actually going to be a bit different than in previous board meetings. It marks a mid-year report, and I'd like to be reporting out to the community in a bit more detail about the progress we've made to date on our board and district goals. So we're getting some exercise this evening. I'm going to invite again the board members to potentially move back into the audience. I'm going to take the podium, and I have a brief PowerPoint presentation that I'll share with the community. Thank you. This past summer, in the month of July, the board in their annual retreat adopted both board level and district level goals. They were very, very similar. After that adoption, I then created a high level action plan to guide our priorities for the first half of this school year. And so as a midway point, I wanted to report out to the community about some of the significant activities we've been leading throughout the district in partnership with our teachers and staff. Our first of three goals focused on academic and instruction, and it's broken down to several key components. The first, Balanced Literacy Program, which is a multi-year initiative focused in our elementary schools. The idea of implementing universal screening protocols, and we are doing that both through all of our schools, so K through 8, and bringing to the district a response to intervention systems that is being implemented again across all of our schools. And the idea of doing these significant shifts with a commitment to job-embedded professional development, which requires some significant coordination, but we believe is the most authentic way to support our teachers in the classroom as they're learning new strategies. So for this first goal, I identified a few drivers. A driver is basically a focus area that we align our resources to and our planning to. And so we're pointing out tonight, I'm going to talk down in columns as opposed to going across in rows. So this first column here, I'm going to highlight a few activities for each driver that we've achieved year to date. So for specific to the Reader's Workshop, going back even to last school year, we started providing our teachers with job-embedded coaching. What that looked like was we had coaches who were coming in regularly, developing relationships with our teachers, and then modeling specific strategies in the classroom while our teachers came together at grade levels, observing those coaches and providing and asking questions and engaging in the work of what it is to run and how to lead the implementation of a Reader's Workshop. This school year, the launch of this school year, one significant activity is, to date, our teachers have participated in 2 coaching cycles. The first coaching cycle focused on the architecture of a mini lesson, and the second, more recent coaching cycle focused on conferring and working with students and teaching reading strategies within the context of independent reading. The coaching cycles will continue, and I'll speak to that in a moment, but before I do want to highlight other key activities, because implementing Reader's Workshop and balanced literacy isn't just about doing one thing. It's really about doing several things with coherence. And one of the things we heard from our teachers going back to last spring was, as they were developing initial understandings of the Reader's Workshop, they started coming to us more regularly saying, we need to change the report card, we need to revise the report card. If you really want to make us these shifts in instruction, we need to be talking about grades significantly differently. And that drove us to understand that we also need to think about implementing standards-based report cards. Now, from an outsider's perspective, it might seem like, well, that's a lot of change to do in 1 year. And it is. But to our teachers' credit, and I also want to acknowledge the Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Higgins, who's here in the back of the room, his leadership and partnership with our teachers, we've been doing this with a lot of feedback. So our teachers have been giving us feedback over the last several months about what this standards-based report card looked like, and we are on track to launch that in January. And one of the pieces of, or one of the areas of feedback and sort of engagement for the community that we think has been pretty effective is Mr. Higgins went on what I've considered to be a road show. He attended all PTA meetings, I think it was both the months of September into October. Got a lot of great attendance and a lot of great questions in those meetings. He also did an hour or a half-hour long session that we posted to our website. So we're really trying to get information out there to families about what the standards-based report card means. And during family conferences, families were exposed to a sample of that report card, as well as some data from the universal screening. And then lastly, specific to this area, all of last year, and still this year, we're getting a lot of feedback about the lack of synergy around homework across our schools. One first step towards that was getting us some general guidance out this school year that we committed to doing last spring. And so that's up on our website. It's high-level guidance. What we said to our teachers is, this is the general area we want you to stay within. If you go outside of that area, well, then you need to be working closely with your principal to be able to justify that. Otherwise, you're going to need to correct to make sure that we have more synergy across our grades so that a third grade family at DBO and a third grade family at KDM has a similar homework experience. Though I'll say more about that when I get to the last column. The other piece that we launched was Foundations. And Foundations here is a K-2 phonics program. It's a highly structured program. We launched training back during convocation, during those first 2 days back in August. And I must say, to be candid, of all 5 of these drivers, the Foundations is the one we've gotten the most consistent, positive feedback upon. Our teachers in grades K through 2 have really responded well to this and appreciate the structure and the techniques of the program. So we're really excited that we have this structured phonics-based program in our early grades in both our gen ed classrooms and our resource rooms. So that training has been completed and we'll continue to monitor that going forward. The next driver, I don't have any recent activity on, so it's going to kind of be a teaser. F&P stands for Fondness and Pinnell. That's a running record, an assessment we use for teaching reading. And I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Community learning time. So to launch all of these new initiatives effectively, we didn't just focus our professional development on our teachers. We also had to own, as leaders, we need to grow. And what we identified early on was one key area where we thought all of us as leaders could grow was in how we plan traditional faculty meetings. Not unlike many districts, many of our schools and our teachers were experiencing twice a month a very traditional infomercial as a faculty meeting. A lot of information sharing that wasn't necessarily focused on true job-embedded professional development. I think it's a real credit to our leaders that across all 6 of our schools now, CLT is embedded. And what it looks like really is our principals doing a quick mini lesson. Might be a team builder, might be a little bit of information, but then it's getting teachers out in groups that are strategically organized around specific activities, so that next 40, 50 minutes, 2 or 3 times a month, is being used to help them. It's being used to collaborate. It's being used to respond to issues they're having in their classroom and to plan together. And so trying to use those hours over the course of the school year more effectively for us was a strategic move. And so far, feedback has been that we're getting there. That's recent activity. I'll say a bit more about that when I get to the next comment. And then lastly, response to intervention was a new initiative in terms of how we think about when our data is telling us students are not on track in terms of what grade level they're in and where they should be, how do we as a community of educators respond to that in a way that is strategic and resourceful? RTI, there are essentially 3 tiers. Your tier 1 is your core academic program. Your tier 2 is usually some type of a push-in intervention, doesn't have to be, but generally is. And tier 3 is generally a pull-out intervention. We're on a multi-year journey right now in our district to build out RTI. So, because when you get into those interventions, there's a variety of different resources that students can be used and that our teachers can be using with those students. And one of the things, again, to Mr. Higgins' credit, that he's been leading really well throughout all of these last several months is pulling together large teams of school counselors, reading specialists, and academic intervention specialists on a monthly basis to get feedback about what they're doing in their classrooms and with their students, but also to start making recommendations so there's more synergy in this space going forward. This, again, similar to Reader's Workshop, will be a multi-year process, but I'm really pleased on where we are to date. On deck, so what's up? And this is really things that are on our radar for this school year in anticipation of adopting a 3-year strategic plan by this winter. But in the meantime, specific to Reader's Workshop, the new report cards are going to launch in January. We've also uncovered, especially with this last unit, so in all of our grades, K through 5, they're about towards the end of Unit 2 of their curriculum for Reader's Workshop. Unit 2 is a nonfiction unit, and it exposed something we strongly suspected. We need more nonfiction text in our classrooms in the elementary schools. There's a couple of ways we'll solve for that, but one thing that's been well received by the PTAs we presented to is a book drive. And so we are aiming to get to our PTAs specific titles of books that we'd love to get donated if they're in the home. And that's something we hope to do by the end of January, early February of next year. So books start to come in, and we will continue to make investments in libraries and books in our future budgets as well. And then the homework policy. So homework guidance is different than homework policy. So we are going to engage on our policy committee over the next several months in an in-depth analysis of what's the right policy for our district with homework, looking at other districts, talking with our teachers, so that by the springtime we actually adopt a brand new homework policy for our district that can be implemented consistently by the 2021 school year. Foundations, we got to continue to monitor and plan for intervention. So foundations right now might be the right intervention in the resources rooms where our students are potentially falling behind, but we also might need a more robust intervention. So that's what that comment there refers to. And then Faunus and Pinnell. That's what's on deck for the coaching cycle. So when our coaches come back in January, and this is going to basically go from January through the end of April, our teachers are going to go through 2 norming sessions to learn the Faunus and Pinnell tool. The goal is that by September of next year, Faunus and Pinnell becomes our main assessment in our elementary schools that replaces the DRA2. And the reason I think this is so important, and the reason I'm optimistic about, we do have teachers right now who feel overwhelmed. We acknowledge that. We do everything we can to support them. And why we're pushing forward, though, with Faunus and Pinnell is because a lot of the feeling of overwhelmingness is being driven by not necessarily having a clear sense of what to teach specific students. Faunus and Pinnell will fill that gap for our teachers. as they understand phonics L and what it means if a student's in L and all the different things that should then be taught, it should help with that anxiety. So that's why we're pushing forward with that. And I'm optimistic it's really going to be well received by our teachers. It's regarded as a best-in-class assessment in our profession. Community learning time, we need to keep it fresh. We're off to a great start, but the winter months come and we need to make sure we don't fall back into old habits. And so that's really on myself, working with our principals and coaching them to make sure community learning time doesn't fall into the old habit of an infomercial. And for RTI, again, that additional guidance on Tier 2 and 3 is how we'll get smarter over several years with our interventions in the district. The other two goals will not be as immediate, but academics and instruction, core part of our work. So that's why I wanted to spend a little time here. Goal number 2, community relations. We've tried to be very intentional around this goal here with the idea of sharing more information and using social media in a better way. Specifically, some drivers here that we've made some progress on. We got an insert into neighborhood news a few weeks back. Got the sense that maybe it didn't get to as many people as we would like. We're going to put that insert on our website in the coming weeks. And then we also are on track to get another insert, a 4-page insert in during the winter and spring to make sure we're getting good news out about the great work happening in our schools. We're getting better at improving regular updates to our website, usually once a day, definitely not more than 2. We get a new tweet out or a Facebook post for the district, and our schools are also doing that work. So I don't want to go to the next one yet. I shouldn't have done that last thing, my apologies. I'm going to go down first. Strategic planning process. Hosted 3 community forums. I left each one inspired, got a lot of great feedback. Before the 3rd forum, we did a survey in the community, got a ton of feedback, 289 or 290 responses. So I have a ton of information that I'll start writing on come January, and then in February presenting drafts of those plans with the idea that we'll have a 3-year plan going in that informs the budget process for next year, and then obviously a 3-year cycle going forward. And then PCG refers to Public Consulting Group that we contracted with last summer to do a review of our special education services. That review is on track. I expect to see a first draft report this Friday, and we look to have a presentation sometime in January to the board and the community about recommendations from that report. And those recommendations will essentially be the action plan for our new director of special education. And we're very excited about that work. And as they got to know our district more, they did more site visits, and so I feel confident that they know us well and will make some really quality recommendations. On deck, I mentioned winter and spring. I'm of the mind we can still do more with branding. We need a hashtag, we need to do some things there, so I'm excited to work more in that area with the website and social media. For the strategic planning piece, I owe the community by January a summary of Forum 3. I am in the middle of a listening tour right now. I've been to 3 of our 6 schools where I'm talking to teachers and students about what they want to see more of and less of in the schools and what they need more of. So that's something that's informing me. And then again, I plan to have a draft in the community by January and February. And I already mentioned PCG. Our 3rd goal, facilities and security. Our character education work is valued here, and obviously doing everything we can to ensure our students are safe on a daily basis. The drivers we identified over the summer made great progress with the Class 3 officers, appreciate the town's support with this. Both the police chief and mayor have been huge supporters of this. We've got 4 or 5 hired, we're still recruiting for that 5th, but they are in our schools and much more present on a daily basis. Our character education piece. So we set a goal over the summer to have at least 3 schools submit applications to become state schools of character, and 3 applications have been submitted as of last week. KDM, DBO, and Dwyer. You should note that Stony Brook won a National School of Character Award last year from the work they've been doing for several years, so that's why they're not listed here. And then Copeland Middle School has launched a homegrown character education program alongside instituting restorative practices. So that's where their character work is going. And Birchwood is actually still doing character work 100%, but they're also decided to focus their energy on sustainable school initiatives. So we're excited about that. So even though only 3 schools are listed, there's action happening in all 6 of our schools. We launched daily community meetings this year in mindfulness minutes. We're experiencing synergy in that space. Where we don't have synergy in homework, we seem to have synergy with community meetings and with mindfulness minutes. Just need to keep that fresh going forward. And then wrapping up, we continue to recruit for the Class 3 officers. The character education piece, Sandy Hook Promise, is taking shape here at Copeland, as I've already alluded to the character ed programs. And yeah, our ideas for the community meetings and mindfulness minute going forward is to share best practices and ensure that work gets memorialized in the strategic plan so that it becomes a true ritual that our students experience from kindergarten to 8th grade. So if you think about the community meetings impacting 1 year, when you think about the life of a graduate, if you have that over 8 years, you really transform relationships, both of students to students and students with teachers. I believe that concludes my report. So thank you, and I guess I'll invite the board to come back and we can see if there are questions. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I wish you would work a little harder, Dr. Tanamian, because there hasn't been enough done. So, thank you so much. It's very admirable to see what's been accomplished in such a short time. And at this time, are there any questions that board members have? I'll take liberty and open it up to the public. If there's anybody from the public who would like to comment. Okay then. Moving on to the business administrator's report.
Just have a short report for this evening. We are beginning the first round of meetings with our principals this week to begin budget planning. Rather than have them come to the central office as was done in the past, we are going to visit them at their schools. This way we'll be able to see firsthand any issues that may require budget adjustments for the upcoming year. The gym floors at DBO and KDM will have their maintenance coat laid down on Monday, December 23rd, so this should keep them in nice shape until they can be completely redone in the summer. As we approach the winter break, I would like to take this opportunity to wish everyone a relaxing and peaceful time with their families and friends, and all good things in the new year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for Mrs. DeCarlo? If not, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board and Rockaway Township. Recently, we would like, several of our faculty were selected to receive Montclair State University Network for Educational Renewal grants. We'd like to congratulate a wonderful group of grant recipients here in the district. Each year, the Montclair State University Network for Educational Renewal rewards select teachers with grants for special projects through our partnership with them. The spirit of innovation and enterprise runs deeply through our schools, and we applaud the efforts of the following teachers in applying for and receiving these grants. Incentive grants for $160 each. Sandra Blaha, Steamwork is Teamwork. Nicole Gillen at Dwyer, the Radiant Readers Workshop. Jennifer Groiner at Dwyer also, Creating Character. Dave Koenig at KDM, Weather Recess Reporting. Danielle Massaro at Dwyer, If You Give a Class Cricket, not the insect, the device. Barbara McFadden at Dwyer, Poems and Plants. Gina Parisi, who's at all 5 of our elementary schools, Teaming Up with Technology. Tara Toohey at Dwyer, Walk It Off. Mary Walbacher at Dwyer, Ready for Reading. And Lauren Weiss at DBO, Playground for Peace Project. Additionally, we also had some recipients of the Teacher Research Group grant at $500 each. We have a group that includes Nicole Gillen, Jennifer Brunner, Kathleen Nangle, and Elise Webster at Dwyer for their morning tubs idea. Another group at Stony Brook, Sandy Blaha, Claire Capuano, Gina Parisi, and Vanessa Waxman for setting the stage to engage. So we want to encourage and applaud that group, those teachers, for doing that. It's a wonderful idea to apply for external grants to really help out the district and the district students as well. I'd like to report also that on Monday we met with the K-5 RTI teams for a meeting to discuss the continued work we're doing to support students in the district through a multi-tiered approach. The groups from each building discussed resources, processes, and how best to identify gaps in learning and remediate them through the established processes. The group will continue to meet throughout the year to refine our methods for identification and intervention. This group has taken on this project with enthusiasm and passion, and I am thrilled with the progress we've made so far. Our next family night will be this Thursday, December 12th, here at Copeland, and the theme of the night is Hour of Code. 5th grade families that signed up should arrive at 6:30 p.m. The night will be focused on helping families with the beginning stages of coding and moving them along to more advanced projects throughout the night. We'll also showcase the NAO robot and show how to code the robot's movements. Future family nights will include Thursday, February 6th, Family Science for grade 3, Tuesday, March 24th, Family Science for grade 4, and a date to be determined in April for Family Math and STEM for grades 5 and 6. These all have limited enrollment, so parents will be notified when the registration opens for each night. This coding workshop closed out within a few hours, and we've created a wait list in case there are changes to the initial participants. We look forward to seeing you at these events.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Higgins? If not, moving on to committee reports.
I attended the RTF meeting on, I think it was November, late November, and they reported out that they made over $7,800 for the foundation, which was wonderful. And also this Friday they have a kids' night out to support the foundation, which is pizza, snacks, drinks, and games. They located the robot in Copeland, one of the teachers, and they were happy to report that all the schools were participating with the therapy dog, so they were very excited about that. And also they were looking for dates for homework-free nights to organize the Dime for W. So that was what they were working on. And their next meetings, one is in February 13th, and the last one of the year will be May 14th.
Thank you.
Policy. So the policy committee met yesterday, December 10th at 5 p.m. The policies we reviewed included policy 2330 homework, which Dr. Jeremian just touched on as well. It's going to be an ongoing conversation, and we're looking to have something in place for September. We also discussed any policies that were related to athletics and nutrition or food service, as identified, needing updating or missing and applicable by that policy audit that was conducted. So the policy committee recommends that those policies related to athletics and nutrition food services go on the January policy committee agenda for the new policy committee. We also discussed policy 7523, school district provided technology device to pupils. This policy is up for a second read tonight, and I will share the suggested language revision when I discuss it later on. The regulations we reviewed, regulation 2431.2, medical examination prior to participation on a school-sponsored interscholastic or intramural team or squad, which is mandated, and this was an update needed as per the audit. That is something else that's recommended to be put on January's policy committee agenda. Another regulation we reviewed was regulation 5530, substance abuse, which is also mandated, and that came out of the policy alert from Strauss Esme in January. Dr. Jeremian will work to reflect some minor changes, just to update the agency's name, and he's going to let us know when done. We also discussed, as stated in the regulation, parent training, outreach programs, and what more possibly can be done with that.
Sounds like the policy committee is going to be busy in January.
I believe so. And then I also have finally the state of policy to sum up the year. So the current and previous policy committee has definitely made progress this year. As of today's board meeting, including the 9 policies up for second read, so I want to round up to those ones. There are 88 policies that will have been adopted or readopted in 2019. That includes 24 since the completion of the policy audit by Strauss Esme in August. There are 10 mandated policies still in need of attention to address in the upcoming year. And then then as far as regulations, we had 25 regulations that were created in 2019. So Dr. Gianni has been just a little bit busy. And there are 4 more currently in the works. 11 of these were created since receiving the results of the regulation audit, and around 22 mandated regulations are still in need of attention, but since 25, 29 were accomplished this year, 22 is going to be no problem. I would like to thank the policy committee board members, Dr. Chanamian, and the central office staff for their time, effort, dedication, and commitment to updating the policy manual, as well as thank Mrs. DiCarlo and any other administrators who provided their expertise to assist us in this endeavor. We eagerly anticipate the future of policy in 2020. And our next meeting, new policy committee meeting, will be on Tuesday, January 14th at 5 p.m.
Thank you. Any questions for policy? Any other committee meetings? The Board Negotiations Committee did meet with the Bus Drivers Association on December 3rd. We met with the mediator in the first round of mediation, and unfortunately we were unable to come to an agreement. There has been another date scheduled. I believe it's for January 13th. At this point, unless both sides can get together still in the month of December. But with the mediator, it's going to be January 13th. Moving on then, recommended for board action. It begins on page 4. I'm sorry, we're going to personnel first, beginning on page 4, ending on page 6. There can be no public participation by law. Discussion was held during executive. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Shields? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Letter B, HIV determination. There is nothing listed in your agenda. However, Dr. Chanamian has an update.
Yes, thank you. We do have one current investigation that is ongoing. The 2019-7.
Thank you. Moving on to education, beginning on page 6, ending on page 6, sort of. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks, Mrs. Smith. Board discussion. If not, I can open to the public if anyone has a comment in education. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to special education, beginning on page 7, ending on page 7. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Brooks?
Second.
Mrs. Shields. Board discussion? I can open to the public if anyone wishes to address the board. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to administration, beginning on page 7, ending on page 8. May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Shields, Mrs. Brooks. Board discussion. If not, I can open to the public. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to finance, beginning on page 8, ending on page 9. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Smith?
Second.
Mrs. Brooks. Board discussion? I can open to the public. If not, roll call, please.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Hellborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to policy, beginning on 10, ending on 10. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mrs. Shields?
Second.
Mrs. Brooks? Mrs. Smith?
Okay, we have no policies up for first read, as we have new board members coming in January. So the motion, is to approve the following policies for a second read. We have policy 3218, use, possession, or distribution of substances. We also have policy 3372, teacher staff member tenure acquisition. Policy 3373, tenure upon transfer or promotion. Policy 3374, tenure upon transfer to underperforming school. Policy 4218, use, possession, or distribution of substances. Both that one and the policy 3218 have regulations that will follow. As far as the next policy, it's 6510, payroll authorization. Policy 6511, direct deposit. Policy 7425, lead testing of water in schools. And then policy 7523, school district providing technology devices to pupils. And in that one, we had a recommendation that came in response to a question regarding when would number 4 on page 1 apply. And we had an additional suggested revision. It reads, students who transfer from the school district or who are no longer enrolled for any reason before the board has granted them the right to retain the device must return the device to the school district in its initially provided condition, considering reasonable use and care. And then the regulation related to this is being worked on by Dr. Janamian, and in that regulation, the fine system will be included. Any questions?
Questions for the policy committee? If these get voted upon tonight, they can become official policies in effect immediately following the meeting. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on any of the policies? Roll call.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Halborg?
Yes.
Mrs. Messick?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Salmi?
Yes, motion passes. Any old business?
I guess, since I said that I was going to report out with the legislative committee, I'll do that now.
Thank you.
This past Saturday, I attended the Legislative Action Committee for the New Jersey School Boards. It was a jam-packed 3 hours. We had several presentations and talked about basically what was on deck in terms of legislation, current legislation. I forwarded to all of the board members a PDF with multiple links. It's a lot to go through. A few of the highlights, they talked about vaccine and preventable illness. Also within that presentation, they also talked about vaping. There's a lot to go through there, but the one thing that stood out for me, especially as an educator, when they talked about the vaping crisis, how they're seeing in the hospitals a spike at 18, we're peaking with students using these vaping devices, where nicotine is peaking at a much older age range, but kids are spiking and going to the hospital often, and this causes developmental issues because their brains are still developing up to 25. So the excessive use of nicotine at that stage, it's becoming a crisis, and so they highlighted that. They also talked about the effect of not vaccinating the state. There's some pockets to be concerned with in the state. That's also within the presentation. They also spoke about the census, and my takeaway from that, why it was even talked about at this meeting, was that when they do the census, a lot of times there are hard to reach populations, and if they don't get get in touch with the population that we need to get an accurate measure, it affects funding for 10 years from the federal level. So it's really important to get the word out, and I've supplied the resources that the school boards offered to the districts, to the administration. They talked about several of the bills. One of them was a school meal legislation, where if a kid doesn't have the money for a meal, that they're looking at legislation to make sure that it's not there's no shaming done for the child. That there are ways to deal with the problem in the long run and work with the parent. And also New Jersey, the State Board of Education it should be adopting, by the summer, I believe, by June, the new learning standards, and they will be having public hearings in February, March, and 2 in March and 1 in February. So they'll be taking testimony. And they also discussed the career and technical education, and there was a large discussion on what is to be planned for in terms of the advocacy. They gave us an agenda. It was broad, but intentionally broad, because they can't anticipate everything that's going to come up, because this is the lame duck session. So anything can happen is what they basically told us, and they have to prepare for things that they might not have anticipated yet. So it was very broad, extensive, and I believe that was attached. If it's not, I have to double check, because it's what the focus is. One of them is health benefits, and then also career, a lot of wide topics. So, like I said, it was a 3-hour jam-packed meeting, and if you could, just based upon the PDF that I sent, there was a lot of stuff.
Thank you for sharing.
Anyone else?
Old business.
Yes, it was mentioned, I think the end of the summer, that KDM had received a grant from the RTF to do the TREPS program at their school, which they did as an after-school club. And they had their TREPS marketplace on November 21st, and I know Dr. Keenan was there. It was fascinating. I mean, our children actually created products and sold them, but it was so fascinating. There was probably about 20 kids' tables, and the kids were so well spoken about their products and selling them, and so excited, and they were all dressed up in suits and ties, and the girls in, professional dresses, and I'm still overwhelmed by the whole experience. And a shout out to Mrs. Eccleston was here earlier getting her tenure pin, and Ms. Pizarro. They were so excited and so proud of these kids, and offered to help any other schools that want to start this up as well.
For the people in the public who don't know what it's, I know I'm not going to put you on the spot.
It's like an I don't know what TREPS is.
It's just a
entrepreneurial.
It's a young entrepreneur program, and what fascinated me about it, both my 4th and 5th graders have participated. At first, I thought it was going to be this after-school club, and then we're going to, glue together some popsicle sticks, and we're going to make it work, and we're going to pedal them to Dr. T, Mrs. Young back there, and everyone was going to walk away happy. But the reality of it is, they met every Thursday after school, and they had a plan, and they came up with a business plan. I'm in marketing and graphic work for a living, so when my kids came to me, because I'm the graphic department apparently, and I was working for free because they were a startup, and they came with silent investors, and they had a whole idea and a plan, and they had a workbook, and they had to fill it out, and they had to learn their expenses, and what they were going to charge, and how they were going to deem a profit, and they came up with the whole thing. And to have 2 different little boys create 2 very different products and create sell out. That's right. I think 90% of the kids in the gym sold out. Some of the products were amazing. Some whittled pens, and I shouldn't even say whittled because that's an understatement. He made the most. You bought one, didn't you? It's like
I'm actually going to email him and buy more for Christmas presents.
He's got a customer guarantee. Like you're not going to run out of ink. He was no joke. But they came up with this whole plan, and to have this child understand that his product cost more to me. So he was selling it for a certain price point to deem profit, and the other kid realized that he made less, but he made more money profit, but his product took more time. It was just the whole thought process, and they walked away with, they had their last meeting on the 5th, and they walked away with best practices and lessons learned. And I have to tell you, for 8 to 10-year-old kids, I was floored, and I did not get paid.
I also just want to echo this. I had the exact same experience that evening. Left very inspired, and we followed up. The representative from TREPS is coming to our monthly principal meeting next week to try to spread that across our schools. It was really an amazing event.
And if you're on social media, follow them because they're all over the county too, and it's just awesome to see what these kids are doing. The lessons they're learning in entrepreneurship was just, it's not anything I remotely thought it would be. It was by far, it completely blew me away.
Our version of Shark Tank.
Yes, that's really what it is.
Maybe the future board would want to invite the children here if they have any prototypes left.
Well, we reinvested
Oh,
and we're expanding our.
So that might be a fun thing to hear from the kids, what they learned and what they made, and that would be in the
We can also
presentation.
find out, I know Mrs. Eccleston and Mrs. Pizarro had sent out a notice, and the kids who wanted to do the write-up, they do a write-up of their story, and they were submitting it to TREPS as well for part of their, program. And it was just super cool, and to have two boys, one doesn't mind writing and doing all that, and another one doesn't really care for it, and was excited to talk about the process. It really is just an extremely balanced I really have to tell you, it blew me away.
That's great, that's great. Let me know when they're coming. Any other old business? New business? Mrs. Smith?
I attended last night, also was jam-packed, because this was rescheduled for the snow day. The 3 R's for new and not so new board members, and it went over the roles, responsibilities, resources. I actually attended with Aaron Tomasini, who's gonna be coming on to the board and being sworn in January. And there were 2 takeaways for me, because a lot of it was refreshing, what I had already learned, which was nice to see that from where I came from a year ago. But the labor relations regarding contracts, they have resources provided, and that's something that we can look into as needed. And they also provide training regarding communications and PR, and that might be something that we may want to consider in the future. That's it.
Thank you. Any other new business? If not,
Well, if no one else has any business, I have any business. I also have.
so Mrs. Solney? Oh,
I told you, there's treats everywhere. On behalf of the Rockaway Township Board of Education and the school district, there are 24 roses, 21 for every year of service and 2 for good luck.
That's my age.
And then we thought it would be fitting, since the district, thank you, Dr. T and Mrs. DiCarlo, we thought it would be fitting when someone retires from the district, you get a clock, right? And we always kind of had a little bit of a running joke about the clock. So it was just ironic that when I received the phone call, I lit up because I just thought it would be perfect. So Mrs. Solney, we thought that it would be best to give you a clock to thank you for your gift of time and your commitment and your dedication to Rockaway Township and the kids of Rockaway Township. And I appreciate everything you've done as a parent, as a community member, and as a board member, and hope you get the sunset you deserve. She always wanted to know when do I get a clock?
I'm waiting for this clock. This is our clock. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
I also have, since you have flowers, I thought you needed a vase to go along with this. And there is a quote written on the vase. And I'd like to just share a few words behind the quote. There's something very special about a person with service in their heart. You have dedicated an extensive amount of time of your personal time. You have dedicated an extensive amount of your personal time, giving of yourself to build a better community. It's a true calling. It was fitting to give you a vase to hold your flowers, and the quote written on the vase reads, "Volunteers don't necessarily have the time, they have the heart." Thank you for your time and the heart you put into your service. It is a direct reflection of your commitment to making our schools a better place for our children. On behalf of the children, the community, and the Board of Education of Rockaway Township, please accept this as a token of thanks and appreciation for your service. And for Mrs. Jericho that's watching at home, we have one for you also, and this was also meant to go out to you. So I'm hoping you're watching it at home.
So you can
Open it to the public.
Oh, that's right. I'm not the public. I already thanked you. motion, please, to open to the public?
Second.
Me neither, was that?
Smith? That's a second.
What is podium, Frank? Sign in.
I'm gonna sign in later. I don't wanna be like Fred and stand here for 10 minutes while you're all staring at me. I'll get it later. And, I love Fred. I'd forgotten how exciting the voting portion is. Very non-monotonous. I wanna just say, it's 18 years ago this April that I came on this board. And I got to know Sue pretty quickly, and I was struck immediately by her commitment, the bar that she set, not only for our board and the commitment that we would have to our role. It was no joke. We had a serious role to fulfill and a serious obligation, and we had a job to do. We're put here by the public to do it. And she set that bar as well for every position that we had any purview over. And I have to say that you added so much to my experience being on the board. You taught me a lot. They were wonderful years. I'm biased, but I feel like they were sort of golden years. That's because I was in them. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time on the board. I loved all the people that we worked with. And I think that with the help of the staff and the administration, we did some great things, and I'm proud of that. And I want to thank you personally for those times. We had many late nights, but we also had many laughs. We had some great experiences. We went to Atlantic City and interviewed superintendents all day long at a convention. Many things I will never forget. So I just want to say thank you, and thank you for your commitment. I don't know that I can do 22 years, so it's a special person that can do that, and God bless you, and may you have many, many happy years in your retirement. Thank you.
You want to sign in live?
I was going to do this. Okay.
You are the.
I do.
Sign the phone. Or never go alone.
So believe it or not, I never really enjoyed speaking at these board meetings. First off, I did the math, and I don't understand 22 years. So you were attending Copeland at the time when you were first on the board?
I love you.
There were a lot of good memories. I shall, or I can start with a few, I guess. For Sue, I'll get it later. But you know, I gotta say to Sue, I first met Sue. I came to a couple board meetings back in 2011, and I remember a whole discussion. Gary was the superintendent at the time, and Sue was very adamant about recognizing students for things beyond just pure academics, and that hit me. Multiple intelligences and ways to recognize students who are gifted in other ways. And I immediately thought, I like this woman. And I remember after that board meeting, chatting with you and having a really nice discussion, that inspired me to want to be part of the Board of Education as well. So you inspired me, good or bad, everyone, thank you. I want to say thank you because when I came aboard, I know between you and Frank and Fred and a few other people, really served as great mentors and role models of what a board member should be. The commitment, the dedication, the collaboration, the kindness and the focus are some of the key words that come to my mind when we talk about how we used to work. We worked together for 6 years together. Late nights, early mornings. I had standing conversations for 45 minutes on the way to work. And I don't know if everyone understands, I'm sure the current board has some ideas about this, how much of a commitment this really is. Many, many nights, many conversations. There have been times, especially we were here till 2, 3 in the morning and getting home, and a lot of us getting up at 5, 6 in the morning to go to work. And that's the kind of dedication that people have had. So, Sue, thank you very much for everything you've done. It's been a real joy watching you and being part of this experience with you. So thank you very much, Sue.
Stayed so long, now I understand.
I was always one of those great sandwiches.
There's still more over here. cucumber water as well. So how do you honor someone who means so much to you, who has taught you so much, and only in a short amount of time, at least my time that I was on the board, certainly you have touched so many more, not only on the board, but in the community. So what do I always look for when I was a board member? The data. A survey by the National School Board Association found that 63% of board members spend 11 to 50 hours a month on board duties. To put this into perspective, Sue spent at least 50 hours a month. Then at the end of the year, that would be over 600 hours of her personal time that was dedicated to the Board of Ed. Of course, that number increases significantly when you count in the negotiations, superintendent searches, and many other challenging meetings. At the minimum, during Sue's tenure of 22 years, she spent over 13,000 hours of service to our district without pay, and more importantly, without complaint. Sue spent many late night meetings, which we all acknowledge there have been many, engaged in conversations with the community members while out and about, at school events, shopping at ShopRite, Costco, and other places like walking around the lake. She felt the heartache of parents relaying stories of their children's challenges. Year after year, her drive and determination never wavered because at the end of the day, she was dedicated, and it was all because she always thought about our kids in our community. Before the district had a character ed program, we had Sue. Sue was the model. Her core values are one and the same with the district core values: heart, honesty, empathy, acceptance, respect, and absolutely trust. That is why she served for so many years. I am thankful to have worked with Sue for over 6 years. I wish all the best and my deepest gratitude for all that you have done for me, my children, and the community. I texted Ro, another board member who was not able to be here, but she is here in spirit. Actually, she's in the nice warm weather out in New Mexico. I wish the best of luck to the new school board. They definitely have big shoes to fill. Thanks.
Hi, Brian Adams, RTEA. I'll sign in later, like Mr. Garantano has instructed everybody to. Tonight we have Birchwood staff in attendance, and had. There were more. We'd like to highlight some of the great things that have been going on there and hope to do this with more of our schools in the coming months. Thank you to the students who raised over $1,500 for the Mathathon benefiting St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which was coordinated by Mrs. Rasmussen. Thanks to the 5th grade Girl Scouts who worked with the PTA to make the Birchwood Courtyard an outdoor learning center. Birchwood students in Ms. Predmore and Ms. Semeniuk's class performed a Thanksgiving Day play for the parents. And currently Ms. Desario's kindergarten class is doing a food drive for local food pantries. Ms. Marchese and Ms. Riley are collecting socks through the newly formed Student Council. The Birchwood PTA is currently doing a toy drive and Stomp Out the Stigma collection. Also, the Green Team is beginning its Sustainable School certification. And next Tuesday, the annual school-wide Grinch Day. The day will be filled with Grinchy fun, including math and literacy activities centered around the Grinch. So that's what's going on at Birchwood. And as a point of personal privilege, I'd like to give Mrs. Salmi her best wishes in the upcoming future. I think about a lot of the tables that we've sat at together, whether here or in the library or central office or that table in there or tables at the diner or when I first started out, a table at IHOP. So you're welcome to sit at our table anytime and hope to see you around. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't remember IHOP. Was I there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was a young buck at the time.
Oh, okay, that must be it.
That was one of the Copeland things.
Oh, okay. Copeland 2000 maybe. Yeah, okay. So is there anyone else from the public who wishes to address the board? Before we leave, first I want to wish everybody a very happy and healthy holiday season and new year. I wish you all the best. At this time, the board needs to go back into executive session for personnel. We will not be making any decisions. So with that, may I have a motion, may I have all those in favor who wish to go into exec? Okay, thank you. We're going into exec, and again, Happy New Year to all and a very happy holiday season. Thank you.